Bible School. It's Thursday, May 7th. So Thursday, May 7th, that's 2 weeks of school left. And it means we've done almost 2 months of online school. You guys have done great. You've hung in there almost to the finish line of this really strange year we've had. As I said all along, I miss you guys, and I miss you more now than I did back in March. And it's not what we want, but we're trying to make it as good as we can. And for 8th grade, remember, this is just halftime. The score at half is never the score at the end of the game. Okay, we're on commandment number 7, and you'll have a quiz over this, the commandments 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 next week. And tomorrow, I'm going to post a really good interview I did with someone I play basketball with here in our gym on Saturdays who plays for the Harlem Globetrotters. So you'll want to check that out. It's a really good interview. What his life's been like and roadblocks he's had to overcome. Okay, Exodus chapter 20 and commandment number 7. And this commandment states, do not commit adultery. Adultery is when a person is married, and as they are married, they seek out and have a sexual relationship with someone they are not married to. And that is adultery, and God says, do not commit adultery. Do not break the promises and the vows you make when you get married. So with each of these commands, we try to come up with a key word that kind of defines it, and the key word for this one is loyalty. That this command talks about keeping promises, doing what you say you're going to do, being loyal to someone else regardless of what it costs. The key word here is loyalty. And then some other words, some synonyms that help us understand this a little bit better are trust. That is, this commandment is expecting that another person can trust you, that you won't break your word. Trust is one. Commitment is a second one. When you get married, you're saying, I'm in for this. I'm committed to this. You can trust me. I won't back out. I won't break my vows. And one other one is faithful. Those are kind of different nuances of what this command is getting at, and the key part here is loyalty. Now, we've said with others of these commandments that Jesus does something interesting in his ministry. He takes these commandments and he kind of digs in the ground a little bit and goes under them at the heart of what the commandment is. In other words, Jesus is saying in a moment, I'll read it for you, that there's more to this command than simply not having a sexual relationship with someone other than your spouse. He's going deeper to the heart of what this commandment is saying. So I'm going to read to you Matthew chapter 5, and this is starting in verse 27. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. That's our command. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out, throw it away. For it's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. That last section, he's saying, cut out your eye if it's causing you to stumble, for it's better to go into heaven with one eye than go into hell with both eyes. What Jesus is saying there is this command of commitment to your vows, faithfulness to your vows, is really serious, and there's a deeper aspect to it. So, I just read from Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 27. And Jesus there says this. This is what he's getting to with the command. He said, the command says, do not commit adultery. And Jesus then goes underneath that and says, there's a heart issue here. That adultery takes place in the heart before it ever happens in real time. Now, Jesus made this same point about murder. The commandment we did the other day said, do not commit murder. And Jesus dug underneath that command and said, anger that takes root in the heart is in place that fuels the murder that eventually happens. Jesus is saying here, there is lust in the heart before adultery takes place, where you fixate on someone, that you are directed toward them, your focus is on them. It's not simply lusting after a person's body, although that might be part of it, or their appearance, but you're lusting after a person, someone that you would rather have than the person that you are now married to. And Jesus' point is, in the crowd, he's saying, you may never have actually had sexual relations with someone, not your spouse. You may have cheated on your spouse. He's saying, but that doesn't mean you haven't done adultery in your heart. For you have fixated on someone who is not your spouse. You fantasize about a life with them, that you desire them. He's saying, this has caused you to break the command of do not commit adultery. That is, that the commandment, do not commit adultery, has something underneath it, underlying it, which is a human heart. And we break the command in our heart, whether or not we break it in real time. That the real time breaking of the commandment has the heart involved long before the action has taken place. That's what Jesus taught about murder, and that's what he's teaching here about adultery. That you may never have committed adultery, you've never actually followed through with another person in real time, but he's saying you can have a heart condition that leads you to break that commandment because you're able to commit adultery in the heart. That's what he's speaking about when he says, if you lust for a person to the point where you're fixating on them, you're imagining them, you're fantasizing about a life you can have with them, you may not actually go through with it, but you've committed the adultery in your heart. Underneath this command too, is a trust and a commitment. That when I'll tell you a story. I don't know if I've told you this before or not, but for about the first 15 years or so as a pastor, I would allow couples to write their own wedding vows, and then they would memorize them. I would keep a copy of my Bible that I'd have with me during the wedding ceremony, so in case they tripped up or forgot a word, I'd be able to keep them on track. But they wanted to create vows that expressed kind of their heart, where they were, and so forth, to the person they were marrying. I did that for about 15 years, until I did a wedding for a family, a friend that I wasn't connected. They lived in California. They're coming back to Columbus for the wedding. They didn't have anyone to do the wedding. Would I help the family out by doing the wedding for this friend? It was a young couple in their 20s. I said, okay. We didn't really have a chance to meet up. I always have a rule that I want to meet 3 or 4 times before the wedding. I think we were able to meet once when they came back to Columbus for the wedding. So anyway, they wanted to write their own vows. I said, okay. And they gave me their vows, and I had them in my Bible. So the couples in the ceremony, and the bride and the groom are facing each other, and the bride starts in on her vows. And as she's doing that, she's following the vows I have in my Bible. I'm watching them as she's reciting them. And then she goes off script. She changes the vows. And she's looking at her husband-to-be, and she says this, I know how much you love the Los Angeles Lakers. I hope in my heart that I can love you and make you as happy as you are when you're watching Shaquille O'Neal and the Los Angeles Lakers play basketball. And she went off on that, and I'm in shock. I'm in shock because she went off script. I'm in shock because I didn't know this was going to happen. I'm in shock at what she was saying, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, God's going to strike the building with lightning because this is so irreverent. Ever since that day, I told couples, you cannot write your own vows. I will give you the vows that you're going to use. The vows that I have switched to were vows that have stood the test of time in the church for years and years and years. Not just our church, churches in general. And they're the vows that say this. I, Chip Hine, being a believer and disciple of the Lord Jesus Christ, do take you, Karen, to be my lawfully wedded wife, for God the Father, Jesus the Son, the Holy Spirit, and all these witnesses that are here. I promise I will love you in good times and in bad, when we are rich and when we are poor, when we are sick and when we are well. I promise I will love you, cherish you, and care for you as Christ does his church, and to be yours and yours alone as long as we both live. Those are the vows that I told people, if you want me to do your wedding, those are the vows we're going to use. And the reason for that is when you are in a wedding ceremony, the ceremony is not about how you feel at that moment. Everybody there assumes your heart is overflowing with joy for that person. The wedding vows are promises you are making of the kind of person you are saying you will be in the future. You are saying in your vows, I promise I will be there when times are good, when times are bad. I promise I'll be there 10 years from now if you're sick or you're healthy. I promise I will be there 20 years from now if we're rolling in money or we don't have any money in the bank. The vows are a promise you are making of the kind of person you are saying you will be. That's why I changed those vows. And that gets at the heart of what this commandment is saying. You are making a commitment of the kind of person you are promising you will be. In other words, the essence of the commitment of marriage and what this command is condemning is you are saying, I promise I will be there for you as long as we both live. And that's the heart of this commandment. So that's it for Thursday, May 7th. Commandment number 7, do not commit adultery. At the heart of it is loyalty. Some other words that reflect that are trust, commitment, and faithful. And Jesus got to the heart of it in Matthew chapter 5, starting verse 27, where he said, before adultery ever takes place, adultery has happened in the heart when we lust and fixate on a person, not our spouse. There you go, May 7th. I'm out.